Councilwoman DeGroot. Councilwoman Hayner. Supervisor Quigley.
Here.
Councilman Secreto. Councilman Van Cleek.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Ulster Town Board Workshop Meeting for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. Want to make sure everyone in this room can hear us. Anybody can't, please raise your hand. And if there's anybody in the internet world that is having problems hearing us, please message Miss Reevy. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Thank you. Public discussion on agenda items. Ladies and gentlemen, the agenda includes a number of items set forth that the town board will be considering tonight. This is the point in the meeting where those who are in attendance have the opportunity to share with the town board their feelings, their opinions, their comments about items that the town board may be talking about later on in the meeting. I would ask you to raise your hand, come to the podium in the front, state your name, and please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mr. Obajeski.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Regis Obajeski, 170 Ledge Road, Town of Ulster. Dear members of the board, first I wish to thank you for publishing the agenda of all meetings of the board days in advance of the meeting. You are not required to do this, but many of us acknowledge this gesture as certainly within the spirit of the New York State Open Meetings Law. I have just one comment on tonight's agenda that is more procedural than issue-oriented. I bring it up because this procedure doesn't fit into the formal meeting agenda. Agendas are always about resolutions, motions, and topical discussions. I'm referring to the third item on tonight's agenda, which is an email from Councilman Van Cleek requesting updates and discussion topics to be added to the agenda. Formal meetings often receive their guidance from Robert's Rules of Order on certain procedures, like agendas. Usually the chairperson presents an agenda of unfinished or new business that may be suggested by members or directors. The compilation is then presented to the members for approval as prepared, followed by occasional discussion and modification, and finally, a vote on the newly massaged agenda. Within tonight's 3-page agenda, there is no attribution to any board member or any department head or on any issue or motion except for Councilman Van Cleek's email on page 1. Any email has no place on an agenda. Separating Councilman Van Cleek's 6 or 7 suggestions from the regular agenda items distances the meeting chair, that is the supervisor, from the councilman. It is as if to say, these are his issues, not mine. Good luck with that. If the supervisor does not want to include any or all of those suggestions, he should have left them off. In that case, it would be up to Councilman Van Cleek to motion his issues onto the agenda. The email on tonight's agenda is out of order. It is also a shenanigan. It is reflective of the petty self-embarrassment administered by the supervisor to himself at a recent board meeting of the board. In that meeting, the agenda item was timekeeping software. The boomerang effect was damaged credibility. Mr. Supervisor, I have written to you personally on 2 occasions about this sort of thing to no avail. I've told you each time that you are better than this. Please stop the political intrigue, which has become as transparent as cheating at a middle school game of gotcha. Sorry that I need to be so direct at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for comments, Mr. Obajeski. Are there any other issues? Ms. Lucarini.
Good evening, members of the town board and Supervisor Quigley. I just have two questions, and you can answer those questions when you discuss the items in your meeting. I just want to know why we're authorizing environmental testing for the town hall. And I also want to know what has happened where we are decreasing the assessment for Home Depot by $730 or $730,000.
We will address those issues when we come to the agenda
Thank you,
items.
and I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Anybody else? Mr. Argentini.
Good evening. I'm Vince Argentini. I live at 909 Orlando Street. Me and my wife have lived down there for over 55 years. Raised all our kids down there, our grandchildren, and now our great-grandchildren. My concerns are with the so-called Seasong Farm. I don't think they're even a farm. As many years as I've been down there, I never see them grow anything. They bring stuff in, they resell it. And the conditions that's in, I've asked him to clean it up several times, and it's not very neat. He has people living in old trailers, camping trailers, tents, all over the place. They don't have electric, they don't have water, and they don't have sewage. I don't know how those people can live. And I'd like the town board to look into it and try and do something for us to get them to clean it up.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Argentini. Any additional comments? Ms. Quarantino, nice to see you back.
Good evening, board members. My name is Terry Quarantino. I live at 965 Flatbush Road, Kingston. I have two items on this agenda I just want to bring to your attention. I have questions for. One is for the approval of the court clerks to go to a seminar, a learning seminar. Number one, I am greatly in favor to it. Any court, town, or any other employee that attends any live seminars are to great advantage. You learn so much more, and you are in a group and others bring up questions you don't think about. And number one, I'm for it. Number two, I don't understand the question, and this was previous, on the expense. Yeah, you did budget 3,000. Number one, according to the 2023 budget, the town court brought in approximately $500,000 revenue. Out of that, they spent approximately $300,000 with a gain of $200,000 to the town coffers to be used. In looking at these fees, I see where for two members to go, it's not unreasonable, is $1,580, and that's room, lodging, and their registration fees, which I don't see anything for the second judge. So I'm assuming the expense would be the same, maybe two members going. So it's $3,160, $160 over budget. I don't understand why it would be turned down, rejected for $160. That's my opinion. Then my next opinion is, there was a discussion previously about the replacing of the floor in the courtroom. I see one court member, court clerk, wrote a recommendation, no carpet. Number one, I have to agree with her. It's not healthy. It's not that easy to keep clean. And I don't understand if expense is the issue, why a grant isn't being requested to cover it. This courtroom, meeting room, and the court offices were all built and refurbished on a grant. So my suggestion is that the town look into a grant to replace this floor and not carpeting.
Thank you. Any additional in the back there?
Good evening. My name's Rich Whitney. I work for Local 17 and represent the highway workers and DPW workers here. I recently sent a letter to the whole town council and specifically Supervisor Quigley. Just want to reiterate our stance on, it's come to my attention that maybe the biometric timekeeping system is not still in play, but if you remember our letter, we're definitely worried about something like that with the privacy issues that can come with that. It is also any change to the timekeeping system is also a mandatory subject of negotiation. So even if it's not the biometric, but a change to that system is still a subject of negotiation in our opinion. So just wanted to reiterate that and say good evening to everybody here. Thank you.
Any additional comments out there? Thank you very much, Ms. Reby. Communications, please. I asked you to read Mr. Whitney's letter, but since Mr. Whitney articulated his letter. No, that's all right. So it was distributed in the package. It was distributed to the town board when I received it. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see the details of what Mr. Whitney just talked about, it is on the town's website. Department head reports, Mr. Petromall.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to first start off by saying that our crew was healthy and working hard. We're in the middle of our blacktop season, so we've got an awful lot of work to do ahead of us. We have a couple brand new trucks that are sitting up at TNT getting work done. They're out getting upfitted. They're two single axle trucks. We have a 10-wheeler that's also on order. We hope to have the two single axles by October, November of this year, and the 10-wheeler by the first part of next year. We also received the F-350 that I use. So we're keeping up on the equipment. Other than that, we've been busy. Parks are doing good. It's always busy down there. Transfer station's doing good. And that's pretty much what I got for the report. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, not at all. They filled it in and it's gone down again. Yeah. There's like a 3-foot deficit in there.
Is Mr. Kovacs here?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just, you have a stop sign on both sides and you share the road, so. Fortunately, it's a county road, not a town road.
We have our own problems like that on Railroad Avenue in East
Yes, we
Kingston.
do. We have a similar problem we've been dealing with for the last 4 or 5 years. We have 2 houses and an apartment house and. Yep. Yeah.
Mr. Kovacs, as the county legislator for that district, do you think you can follow up with Buildings and Grounds on this problem on behalf of Mr. Secreto?
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Councilman, thank you for bringing that up. I have been working on that issue. I brought it up several times to the Public Works Commissioner at the county. And last week I wrote a letter to the commissioner and copy the executive and the supervisor. I'm hoping for an answer at the Public Works Committee meeting, which will be next Monday night. Absolutely. And I've discussed this matter with Michael Berardi, who lives on Ulster Landing Road. He and a couple other constituents did contact me, and I certainly follow up on this matter.
Right here,
Yes.
Enterprise Drive sign is all covered up. While you're addressing that, would you ask them to get rid of that as well, please?
Certainly will.
Thanks.
Anything else for Mr. Petromol?
I just want to finish by thanking the town board for allowing us to have summer help, seasonal help this year. We were fortunate. We had four or five younger individuals, and that worked out very well. So I appreciate that, and I'd like to appreciate my staff who actually just got done about half an hour ago with a paving project on Lake Road. So we're very fortunate to have a dedicated and hardworking crew that we have in all the departments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Majori?
Good evening, Town Board. As Frank said, staffing for the sewer department, our priority concerns. We're almost at 100% after tonight's agenda. Hopefully, we're at 100% starting on Monday. Ulster Sewer Plant, I'd like to report that the UV system, the new UV system, is working well. We don't have any violations. We're saving roughly 9,300 kilowatt hours of electric per month, which at over 14 cents a kilowatt hour is over $1,300 a month in savings, just in electric. And we have no violations, so both good things. Asset management program, that's it's making good progress. We're through the asset survey for both sewer treatment plants. It was a lot of work. It documented every single piece in the plant, down to hoses, hose nozzles, you name it, all documented. The Ulster digester replacement, the equipment design is coming along. We're working with new technologies to retrofit the older technology that's no longer in-kind replaceable. We're trying to stay within the same footprint and optimize the treatment and, you know, the quality of the treatment as well. So we're making good progress on that. Whittier Sewer is performing well with no problems to report. We're looking forward to the solar project coming down to the Whittier wastewater treatment plant. The town supervisor Quigley, we've been talking about it, working with it for a long time. We're glad to see at the sewer plant that the county's awarded us a grant that's going to help us complete it. So that's a good thing. Washington Avenue is working well with no problems to report. The Rupco sewer project connection, that's the bid opening was today or
Next week.
next.
Got rescheduled.
Oh, the 11th, right? Is okay. So the 11th got rescheduled too. But that's in progress, so that's a good thing as well. Those properties over there are in desperate need of quality sewer systems. So that's a very important matter. Spring Lake, we've connected the first two properties in phase 2 into they just went active this week. The third one is almost there. So hopefully that one will be starting up soon too. So we have 3 pump stations in the ground, 2 of them are running. That's about all I got. If anybody's got any questions.
Status of your fleet lettering?
Fleet lettering is complete. We have letters on all of our trucks.
What's the status of the damage down at the sewer plant? Is that everything fixed and back up and running?
Not even close.
I didn't think so.
No.
We haven't anticipated.
No, that's what I was talking about, the Ulster digester
Yes,
replacement project.
right. When
Yeah,
is the
that's-
anticipated? Time
It's not even close to being repaired. We're just working on the design we have 1970s equipment that's not in-kind replaceable. So we're looking at new technology to fit that footprint.
Okay, so are we looking at 8 months, a year? What are we?
I don't
looking
have
at?
that answer.
We have no answer.
We're in the design process to
Right.
see what will work, what application fits our needs best and fits the footprint best. Once we have that, we can move forward with working on purchasing this and building it and et cetera, getting it operational. Once we get that decision made, that all that equipment still needs to go into production, get built. It's all custom built stuff. None of
The
this
insurance
is,
company set a time period because normally they have a date of that the claim has to be closed by. That's my question. That's why I'm asking all of this.
no, I don't have
Okay.
any dates.
Any date
set.
from the date of the check. We have a date that we have to have everything completed by.
Okay.
So we might want to ask the insurance company what that
We've-
complete date is.
Yeah, I can add to that and say that John Guerin, our insurance broker, has been to the plant numerous times. He's in contact with me weekly. And I really appreciate his help and his input on all of it, so. He's staying on top of it. He said we're in good shape.
Don't worry, I'll ask you again in another month or two, I promise.
You,
What is
You
the
can.
current, so I'm gonna be dainty with the words, what's happening with the stuff that goes in the sewer plant right now, that was being treated by the thing that's broken?
it's still being treated to the full ability.
Yep.
The
It's
only
slower,
difference, what's that?
It's a little slow,
Yep.
right?
No, the only difference is instead of flaring the gas off,
Mhm.
we're now having to vent the gas. We don't have the option to waste the gas by flaring it.
That was
So
why I wanted to ask that people
but-
were concerned.
everything else, quality of our water, the quality of our sludge, nothing has changed there.
That's why you were keying in on no violations, correct?
That was in reference to the UV system.
On the
It's a
UV
separate system.
I just wanted to ask that just for so the words that come from your mouth, which we appreciate.
Yeah,
The clarity to the fact.
yeah,
The
as,
plant is running,
right.
it's just not running the way
Right.
we want.
Yeah, and as I reported back in July, we were stabilized the day of the event. We were back up and running. We had the crew came in, we had the incident cleaned up, and we were back processing sludge we didn't miss a beat.
Thank you.
So. Any other questions?
So let me just clarify a statement here. The damage that was incurred in no way impacts our compliance with our DEC permit.
No, our sludge is not on our permit. Our permit is referenced to our discharge into the Esopus Creek. And that water quality is unaffected by this problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Van Cleek, on behalf of John Rose.
John Rose called me this morning saying he was not going to be able to make the meeting tonight. So he emailed me his report. It says it has been a busy 3 months for the water department. We have had a total of 155 service calls and 137 markouts. Some of the highlights this past quarter are in July, we installed a new fire hydrant on the Parkside Drive in Halcyon Park. In August, we replaced the filter media in the Halcyon Park filter, which was 47 years old. We received assistance from the highway department and the sewer department on this project. So at this time, I would like to say thank you for their help. The Ulster Travel Plaza on the New York State Thruway is 98% complete. We are looking to turn them on next week. Work is continuing on the small South Tower. Archtop Fibers installation in Lake Katrine area has been going very well. They have been a pleasure to work with. All requested testing so far this year has been completed. Some upcoming projects are the annual fire hydrant flushing project for all districts, which will start in October. The filter media change out for the Ulster water treatment plant is scheduled for late October or early November. All day-to-day operations are going well. Regards, John Rose. Sue, I'll give this to you.
Mr. Berardi.
Good evening Supervisor, Town Board members. Looking at this department head report compared to last year's, we're up slightly in just about everything except accidents, which is always good. That is including incidents, tickets, DWIRS, across the board. So we've been steadily busy this year compared to last year's 8 months. We have been busy community policing events through the spring and summer. We participated in both Chambers and Crosby Elementary School's field day events. We conducted a summer camp demo down at the Town of Ulster Summer Camp at their last week, which was well received. We hosted a Cops and Cones event at Jolly Cow. I want to thank John from the Jolly Cow and all staff. They donated the ice cream to all the kids that night. It was definitely well attended and a good time by all. As well as we continuously been working on our community policing project at the Kingston Motel. My officers regularly stop up there during their shifts, as well as we participate in barbecues and ice cream socials. So that is going well. We just initiated our in-service training cycle for our fall. We do that with the City of Kingston Police Department and the Town of Rosendale Police Department. That training, it consists of 3 days for 9 weeks. Various sort of topics we focus on. Day 1 is always classroom, and day 2 and 3 are always outside practical. So we are on our way to complete that before the end of the season, and we're doing well. My staff is great. A lot of them have participated in a lot of these events on their own time, which I want to thank them for. And hard work is showing off. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Tutt.
Supervisor, board members, gathered public. So the staff is healthy and they're very well liked by the residents, the contractors, architects, engineers. I get compliments all the time, unlike their boss. Nobody likes me. My new inspector, Mark Perez, is now fully certified by state and county, so I can start looking for an additional inspector to take on the rest of the work we need to do. IBM has started building the new treatment facility. For anybody interested, that's a large steel structure on Enterprise Drive. It's a requirement by the DEC. It did go through all the proper permitting on all levels. LL Bean is open, but like nearly every store that opens in the, once I open it, I never go back. So I have no idea how they're doing. Firehouse Productions took over the old on Boyce's Lane. They took over the old MetLife, Edgewater.
United Healthcare.
United Healthcare. Thank you. So they expanded. They're not using it entirely, but they have a project coming up also to expand their loading docks. Wendy's has completed their interior and exterior renovations, as well as Walmart has completed their interior update. JWKH, Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall, is rapidly approaching completion with a possible occupancy by mid-September. Wiz Road Solar is preparing to start construction of their 5 megawatt solar array over behind Campers World. iPark has completed the removal of the roof deck on building 001. No idea on the plans, but moving forward. Central Hudson has nearly completed the PCC, which is a primary control center. So their occupancy is possibly in the middle of next month, and they're looking at starting phase 2 beginning of next year. Chambers Housing has started upgrades to all of small apartment units, including new roofs and interior upgrades. Lastly, Spirit Halloween is open in the former Best Buy location. Seems like they open sooner and sooner each year, but they're running out of places. So we'll see where that goes. Today, we have issued 430 permits, 57 certificates of occupancy, 374 certificates of compliance. We've processed 30 planning board and 12 zoning board submissions for a total revenue of just over $400,000.
Mr. Tutt, I know everyone here is anxiously awaiting any news on Xena development. Is there anything to report on Xena?
So Xena made their multiple initial submissions to the planning board. At this point, we are waiting for Woodstock zoning board first for them to weigh in on the viability of the road, whether it's legal or not. If they come to the conclusion that yes, they can do that, then it has to go to their planning board. Because according to our subdivision rules, they have to have a viable road to the subdivision. So until that clears the hurdles and they'll be allowed to put this road in, we're on hold.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
On the Central Hudson completion, I know you had some concerns with them at different times, trees, water movement, stuff. Are you comfortable at this point that they are cooperating with you, or?
So they have started their landscape where they are starting to plant replacement trees. They had a singular incident 2 years ago with the stormwater problem. Problem was corrected within 24 hours. It was corrected prior to DEC even getting involved. So since then, I have been monitoring it on a regular basis. If we have a major event, I'm on their site. I'm on Glen Eyrie Boulevard. Everything is working as designed at this point. We'll see, you know, Brett Alone has a project coming up, but that should have a zero impact because that's designed to keep that. The new design is to keep stormwater on site.
Okay. And you're getting the cooperation. Okay.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sabia?
Hello, board members. It's good to see you all. I'm presenting the department head report for the assessor's office. The assessor's office has completed the 2024 assessment roll, which was finalized on July 1st. We're now working on the 2025 assessment roll and identifying the physical property changes which have taken place since March 1st, 2024. The annual routine tasks that we are processing for the 2025 roll are processing RP 5217 property transfers, which continue to be processed throughout the year to maintain accurate owner information. Property transfers require research to confirm the validity of property sales prices at the time of sale, as well as condition, use, and other factors which could affect the sale price. We're also reviewing building permits and C of Os, CFCs to verify physical property changes and determine which improvements require assessment adjustments. We're also reviewing building plans, routing property visits, photographing, sketching, and measuring properties to determine the size, square footage, and determine valuation implications. Also reviewing town and county pilot information for support and billing for 2025 taxes based on the 2024 assessment roll. Some current tasks that we're also working through. Preparing the RFP for reassessment with the appointed assessor, Daniel Baker, and ORB staff member, John Woolham, and Zaid, the property tax analyst. There's also, we're processing small claims review. There were 7 residential properties filed under one consultant, Aventine Properties, and their property data and values are currently under review. Assisting in the review of tax certiorari cases with Dan Baker, and maintaining accurate records and communication with the attorneys and representatives. And the one item on my report, which I recently added for an open discussion, the secretary, Mary, has presented her letter of resignation. And so I would like to have a discussion about replacement, potentially hiring someone to fill the position alongside Mary before she does leave on January 10th. I know there's potential that she could extend and kind of come back for a period of time more intermittently, but I would like to fill her position so that a candidate could work alongside her and shadow her.
So in reference to Mr. Sabia's comment here about Ms. Secreto giving her notice, there are several positions in the town's labor force that will be vacant in the next 12 months. The supervisor's office sent an email, I should say, to Ulster County Civil Service requesting the certified lists of eligible hirees from civil service. Mr. Credo is in a specific civil service classification. We will be restricted to hiring from the list of people in that class. So we have asked for the list to see who's on there for not only her position, but others that are potentially vacant in 2025. So we're being proactive here.
Okay, it's good to hear. That's all for my report. Do you have any questions? Okay.
The only-
And Matt-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I had a comment and I meant to do it
Sure.
when Warren was up there also is, in the last, year or so, you all made a drastic change up there of positive. This isn't a thumbs up one. Don't worry. Okay? That the positive change and the leadership you all have exhibited in working with the staff up there, just looking at the office, it's in tremendously better shape. And with the way people are treated with what I've heard from builders and, people that are involved with tax stuff, they appreciate what y'all are doing up there. So it makes our job much easier when people are treated well. Highway department included. The top of the hill over there works like it's the top of the hills. Thank you.
Thank you.
You heard Ms. Lucarini ask a question about the tax search settlement. Could you explain for the audience the process and why we're settling here?
So I would, so Dan Baker is heading and the communication on tax certs currently. I have more so been assisting. So that is one area that he has been fulfilling, control. So on decision making. So I cannot speak on the specific value reduction. So I can definitely supply more information with discussion with him.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, come on back up. Because I left something off. Yes.
The update on the lettering of vehicles. So I conferred with Matt. We had JBS Graphics come up, measure the vehicles. So my 3 vehicles and Matt's 1 vehicle are on the queue to be lettered within the next week.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Ms. Reevy as town clerk and tax collector.
For town clerk, we recently planned and hosted 2 events in the month of August, actually. We had our senior bus trip. The town board graciously pays for the transportation, and the attendees on the trip pay their own way as far as the venue and the show. And we also had our annual senior picnic, which the town board also graciously pays for our caterer, Joe B's. It was a very successful event. It was August 30th down at our park. We had a record of number of attendees, about 185 people. It was a beautiful day. I thank everyone who was there to volunteer. These events are great for our community. We actually have 2 more events planned for this year, our trunk or treat and our Christmas tree lighting. To date, over $536,000 in fees have been collected by the town clerk's office, most of which, as you heard Mr. Tutt, are building fees. And I do submit my monthly report to the town board each month, which is on the, the town board meeting agendas. So they are on our town website as well. I encourage the public to look for all of this information that we have for our town events on our town website and our town Facebook page. As far as tax collector, we have it's usually pretty boring, but we turned over our books and completed our reconciliation with Ulster County Department of Finance in June. I can say that all of our numbers matched, and our reconciliation was 100% matched with the numbers that Ulster County and that my office had. We collected over $19 million in taxes. Just a reminder, we do not do school taxes, but school tax bills will be mailed out shortly, if not already, and that collection starts in October. Our tax billing does not start again until January 1st. A new tax system software program that Ulster County is implementing as of the 2025 property tax collection period. This item is on our agenda tonight for the town board to approve. This is no change for the public. The only changes for us internally, we'll be using a new software program. The county is covering the cost of the entire initial license and the one-year maintenance agreement, which is almost $2,000. After this, the town is only responsible for the yearly maintenance fee, which we currently pay a maintenance fee anyway. Currently, we pay $100 a year. This maintenance fee will be $135. That's it for me. I would just like to thank the town board, all of the department heads and staff in every town department, and most importantly, my deputy Melanie Riker, who I could not do this job without her. And we both would like to thank our town residents. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Was this year's reconciliation appointment shorter than last year's?
Well, we usually meet in public, and ever since COVID, we meet on the sidewalk. So we drop off our books, but beforehand, I will say that I do have a verbal and an email appointment with the Department of Finance. I have a template that I use. I present them with the numbers I think that we are going to be responsible for before we even get the email from them. And this year, I can say that we matched before we even got the numbers from the county. So it was a very short appointment.
I have to say that Ms. Reevy is recognized as one of the premier town clerk and tax collectors in Ulster County. Having had the opportunity to interface with other communities and their supervisors and the operations in their towns, she is looked upon by her peers and held in high esteem. You don't know how lucky we are to have her in the position of town clerk, tax collector.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ms. Sweeney?
As many of you know, it is budget season. So I have two projects going on. Of course, doing the 2025 budget. Just to give you a little timeline on that, on July 15th, department heads were emailed out their budgets. They had a deadline of August 30th. I can say everyone did get their budgets in on time. They were received. Right now, I'm going through all of their budgets, entering in their numbers, working on their payroll budgets. Hopefully by next week, we will get that payroll budget, right? Supervisor Quigley, back out to all the department heads so they can see that. One thing in our budget this year, we're trying to be a little bit more transparent. We're going to have more descriptions for the bulk of a total amount in each GL line. So for instance, in the contractual lines, you'll see a breakdown, if we can break it down, membership fees, subscriptions, software, so on and so forth. The other project I have going on is working to find a new financial system with Supervisor Quigley. This started with the Deputy Van Cleek and now has progressed forward with the supervisor. Just to name a few of the softwares that we've looked at: Oracle NetSuite, Edmunds, Freedom Software, Tyler ERP, and Andrews Technology. We've been meeting with different towns, villages. We met with Diane, town of Saugerties, the comptroller Jean and her staff this morning, actually, for the town in the town of New Paltz. We're meeting with the village of Wappingers next week. That's Jessica in finance. And we've been speaking quite a few times with Arlene, who now works for the town of Gardner. One major thing I feel that we had last week was the New York State GFOA came to our senior center and we had a breakfast chat with multiple municipalities across Ulster County. Some of the representatives we had were Ulster County Comptroller, Marge Gallagher, her deputy. We had the town of Gardner, town of New Paltz, Bank of Greene County actually came. and brought all the breakfast. M&T Bank, Town of Newburgh, Board Member DeGroat, Town of Hurley, and Town of Sawgreaves. I probably forgot a few, but I thought that was really nice. Everybody seems to want to do it again. Luckily, we had Supervisor Quigley there, who spoke a lot about the budget, and there was a lot of information provided to the different towns. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Ms. Sweeney?
Thank you.
I believe, did I miss anyone? The judges are not here. They cannot speak if they were. So we will proceed to our agenda items. The first agenda item is in reference to a letter that has been received from Local 17, whose contract expires in December of 2025. They have requested the commencement of negotiations for a successor agreement. And there has been suggestions amongst the board that the supervisor assume the responsibilities of the negotiation. So there is a resolution in the package tonight authorizing the supervisor to commence negotiations with Local 17 for a successor collective bargaining agreement to the agreement that will expire December 31st, 2025. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayner, Supervisor Quigley,
Yes.
Councilman Secreto, Councilman Van Cleef.
Yes.
Motion to accept the resolution is passed. The second resolution in our package tonight is to authorize the supervisor to enter into labor management discussions with the Town of Ulster PBA with respect to issues pertaining to the collective bargaining agreement and the timekeeping procedures in the police department. There has been a memo of law circulated to the town board members detailing the distinction between negotiations of contracts with Local 17 under the Taylor Law and negotiations of contracts with the PBA under the Taylor Law. The PBA has the opportunity, if they do not reach an agreement, to file for arbitration or mediation that leads to binding arbitration. And in the 3 times that we have been involved in negotiations that have been unsuccessful, we ended up in mediation, 2 of which one turned out okay and the other didn't turn out the way we wanted it. So you never want to expose the taxpayers of the town to a situation where you could have an outcome of negotiations dictated to you by a party outside the community. So we are taking a tact to undertake discussions, labor management discussions with the PBA to address the issues that have come up. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented? Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot. Yes. Councilwoman Hayner, Supervisor Quigley,
Yes,
Councilman Secreto, Councilman Van Cleef.
Yes.
thank you. The next item, as you've heard, we have reports from the departments on the lettering. The discussion point was to set a target date of October 1st for completion of the exercise. So in view of the report, Mr. Van Cleef, I turn this matter over to you.
Listening to the reports, I have nothing to talk about, so I'm fine.
For the record, I would ask for a motion to establish the date of October 1st. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion fails for 3-2. There was silence. I assume silence is a no. The next item is a discussion on the breakdown of the anticipated expenses for the court clerks attending this September 29th to October 2nd, association meeting.
I'll talk to that since that's under my name.
Okay.
I looked at the budget for this year and I see we have, and help me on this one, I see we have A 1110.404. Training and conferences, and it's for $3,000. From what I understand, it looks like our projected expenses will exceed that. I see one voucher for 2 of the clerks, but I understand we have 5 going. So I just want to know where we plan to allocate those funds from so that the budget line doesn't go into zero, the negative. So could we just please let us know what you're planning on recommending for the transfer within funds?
I have, according to the accounting that I provided in the previous meeting, total of $4,417 as the expected cost of the trip, which includes the registration fees totaling $3,667, which is the room, the $100 registration fee, which includes food, and an estimate of $750. Would we agree on 4,417, or is there another number that someone has out there as the expected cost?
I was asking to have that confirmed.
No. Okay, so you would like to have it confirmed. The individual, I'm sorry.
No, you already misunderstand my question. I already got your explanation of the numbers. And I understand they may not be exact. My question is, where will the extra money?
I'm
come-
trying to define the amount of extra money that I need to find. For example, in the budget, on line item 1110-102, court security, we have historically budgeted $25,000, and in 2021 and 2022 spent less than $15,000. In 2023, we budgeted $25,000, and as of September, we were at 11,600. So we ran a surplus in that account. We reduced the budget to $20,000 in 2024. So I'm suggesting that there's $1,500 that can be transferred out of 1110-102 court security to support the training.
You want to make a motion for that so we can do it? Sounds like it, based on your.
Every expense gonna be covered. Because I know when we went to New York City, it cost money for food, it cost money for
It's in,
Their food is included in the $690 fee.
transportation.
And the car rental is, right, the rental car is an estimate right now.
Okay.
So yes, I will make a motion to pass a budget transfer, moving $1,500
Just in case.
from A 1110-102
to 1110-404.
404 training and conferences.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. No, I didn't get a roll call for the last one. The next item is a discussion and direction by the board for our consideration of timekeeping and/or accounting programs. As you heard, Ms. Sweeney has talked about the exercise that the supervisor's office has undertaken in analyzing alternates for replacing the accounting system as a result of the advancement of the Andrews Technology timekeeping system. This afternoon, or I should say this morning, I emailed to the town board members an email that I received from Tyler Technologies last night via Ms. Sweeney that basically compared Tyler Technologies, who are a vendor for a revised financial accounting system, and their human resources module, which integrates with the payroll module, to the functionality of the Andrews Technology system. And I would say 99% of the functionality of the Andrews system, which is a standalone system that only feeds resulting time into the accounting payroll system, could be adequately provided, including the biometric time clock system that is so anxiously awaited as a benefit of the Andrews technology. So what I'm asking here is consideration of the town board to the supervisor's office and allow us to continue our analysis, our visits, and to see what other concepts we can come up with as we progress here.
Thank you for the report. The Finance Committee will discontinue working on it, which is fine. We have other stuff to do. One response I'd like to give: at no time were we recommending biometric. That was immediately taken off the table when we started to talk about this, because everyone we talked with did not want this town to be doing biometric. So that was never discussed, and will never, I won't be involved with wanting that. So I think we talked about it.
I just want to be clear, biometric is only one option of the methodologies, the methods that can be used to,
But it's the most controversial.
and it is the most, yes. Okay,
Can I be included when you guys go? Can I go with you? Is that okay?
yes,
You guys mind?
absolutely. You want to
'Cause I
go?
would love to be included and see what's actually gonna happen. Thank you.
So that concludes our report on that matter. Budget process. Ms. Sweeney made a presentation during her department head report. And I presented to the town board a memo. And that is in the package and on the town's website. That sets forth that the supervisor's office is committing to provide to the town board a department head budget. This is pre-public exposure, a department head budget by September 20th, so that they can see the net effect of all the actual requests that the department heads across all funds have made. At that point, I will, as budget officer, assume responsibility for moving the budget forward in a macro sense in relation to the tax cap, which is an obligation that the town has to stay within. If it is determined that the revenues or expenses are not providing sufficient ability to stay within the tax cap, the town board will have a discussion about a town law overriding the tax cap. And we will be presenting to the town clerk the budget on September 30th. The town clerk has a statutory obligation to deliver to the town board by the 5th of October, but our town board meeting is scheduled for October 3rd, at which point the budget will become a public document available for review. Are there any questions on the process that I have set forth?
I thought it was really good because was in that handout you gave was excellent. And I thought the article in the most recent board magazine was, we're doing a good job there. One question is the department head requests that were asked for in the process of your developing the budget, are they considered confidential, or is that something that gets shared with the public beforehand?
The budget will, when the budget is presented to the town clerk, there will be 2 columns. DHR, which is the department head request, so it becomes public at that time. And the tentative budget, which is the budget officer's presentation of the big picture.
But as of right now, that's not public.
No, it's not public
All right, thank you.
because it's not been finished being put in. We're still going through it and massaging it, and changes are being made on a daily basis. Any other items? Mr. Van Cleek, the next item on additional committees, I believe this is your request, so please feel free.
Okay. at one of our meetings sometime this summer, it was discussed with the idea among the board members that we wanted to establish a few more committees. So I was starting to prime the pump, thinking board members would like to participate and maybe addressing some new committees. One that I had heard about that seemed relevant to us was Public Works Committee, which I think we had something like this years ago here, which would be highway, sewer, and water departments. So I threw that out as a recommendation. And the only other one that came to the top of my list was we want to consider an IT committee. Because that would include what I have here, phones, networks, network providers, security system, video monitoring, computer systems. I just bring this forward for discussion.
I would respond by suggesting that highway, sewer, and water be broken up. And strictly because of, we have 4 sewer districts and their capital projects are extensive within the sewer district. So if you're trying to lump 4 sewer districts and 7 water districts in and give adequate attention to all the projects that are on the project list right now, I think you're going to strain the time resources of some of the board members. So I would suggest, and I would be happy to support separate water and sewer department committees along with the highway committee.
So 3 or 2?
3, it would be 3. And Ms. Reevy did do an analysis of prior committees for me going back into the 90s as to what committees the town board had established. And for example, one of them was that the town board was exercising direct control over the transfer station, which is under the purview of the highway superintendent right now. So some of the older committees don't necessarily fit into the operating structure that we have today. So your suggestions, I would agree to them. I would vote for them. I would allow you to solicit the board members and come up with who wants to take what role where.
Do you think we should have them split, or do you think we should have just one public work? So you think it should be split?
I mean, the water, I don't see if there's gonna be a big problem. These many waters, that's, the detail, this capital project.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we tried just doing one committee called Public Works. We could always split it up later. I mean,
You want to do one committee? Go ahead.
No, I'm just
I'm
thinking,
fine.
your points are valid.
No,
just saying
I'm willing to support the board in the exercise.
I understand your point too, but you see so many times the 3 of them have to work together. So when there's a water break, a sewer break, an issue that all 3 departments are working together, and they were just all working at the filter replacement thing. So that was, but I understand. My thought was if we try, I get it, good point. I think, why don't we try it as one, and if we find one of them being burdensome, then we split them off to a subcommittee or a separate committee. But if we want to separate them now, we can. So
Why don't you and Anna do IT, because you guys are much better at it, why don't you let Rocky and I do public works? No disrespect.
sounds fine. Sounds fine to me.
You can do IT, that's not a problem with me.
Okay, so may I have a motion to set the committee structure as so identified? One committee for highway, sewer, and water to include Mr. Secreto and Mr. Groot. And one committee for IT to include the areas as defined, to include Ms. Hayner and Mr. Van Cleef. May I have a motion? Any discussion further? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is a discussion on creating a policy limiting the access to all video surveillance in of our town buildings and properties to our police department only. Any request to review the security must be directed to the police chief and be authorized by the board. Just for the residents and the board's information, the 2 cameras in the town supervisor's office have been disabled. All access to the town supervisor's office, the security cameras have been removed. And consequently, I received, as did the board, an email this afternoon, which is in the process of being researched. So I would like to make this presentation to the town board before we have this discussion. Before the removal, the town had a total of 24 cameras spread out between the police department, which is a requirement of our accreditation for security. Is that correct? The main floor, the cameras predominantly have been purchased through Justice Court funds. The senior center, which was purchased with town funds, and this supervisor's office, which was purchased with town funds. The police department's cameras are solely monitored downstairs and are inaccessible to anybody else. The cameras upstairs and in the upstairs, excluding the supervisor's office and including the senior center, were monitored both by the supervisor's office and the main console in the police department. Today's email from Judge Kessick, which resulted from her having a conversation with the Office of Court Administration, stated a legal opinion from the Office of Court Administration that basically says that the property purchased by a JCAP funds must be used specifically for the enhancement of the court's ability to provide suitable and sufficient services to their respective communities. The funding is for court-related purposes and impliedly leaves the items purchased with such fundings as court property. And then I was further provided 2 opinions from, I believe, the OCA's counsel's office that indicated that the property, specifically in this instance, were relating to cameras, were under the control of the 2 judges and not the town board. So I believe this addresses the issue that you raised, as the police department has sole control over and of the cameras in the police department, and also serves as a backup monitoring section for the cameras that are to be determined to be controlled by the judges. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So why don't the cameras go into the court office where the other clerks are?
There is specific prohibitions in the rules against cameras in the workplace that may overhear confidential court discussions. Cameras are prohibited in the judge's chambers and also in the justice court offices, because counsel for the people who appear in this court sometimes go into the office to have discussions with the clerks over the matter being adjudicated, or the people show up at the court windows to address their fine issues and end up talking to the clerks through the windows over their court issues.
So it's not just video, it's audio as well.
For the most part,
Because what was in your office wasn't,
audio and video
It was
was in
both.
my
Oh,
office, and
okay.
it's not there now.
right,
And the balance of the main floor here, to my knowledge, is all video.
it is,
Yes.
but you're allowed to have video, just not audio and video, yes?
There is no prohibition. You can have both, okay? The issue is that these cameras were bought between 2013 and 2016 before audio became prevalent
Incorporated-
in that
incorporated into-
device.
Right.
Okay, so we have aging cameras and we have cameras on the exterior building watching the ramp where the prisoners come up. We have cameras on the exterior of the building watching where the sheriff's department parks and lets their people out. We have cameras on the front entranceway watching the parking lot and the entranceway to the town hall. And we have cameras over the town clerk's door pointed towards the entranceway coming up from the basement and in the basement, in the basement stairwell where the police department bring prisoners up from downstairs. So in other words, from the time that they're in booking to the time they come here, they under constant
Constant
video
surveillance.
surveillance, which is a requirement. But was suggested by OCA in their security review. Yes,
So the question came in though with the safety of someone else in the court. That's what the question, that's where the issue
Okay.
came up. So that was my,
so the issue of the who monitors the cameras?
correct,
Okay,
correct.
as you know, the supervisor's office had access to the main floor cameras. Then there have been times when there have been screams, loud noises, and Peggy would immediately go to her camera to see what happens. And she served as the backup to the people that are downstairs because their primary role, correct me if I'm wrong, is dispatch. And dispatch sits on this side of the room and the main video screens are on the opposite side of the room. So it's outside their peripheral vision. So if something happens on the screen and they're focused on dispatch duties, they're not necessarily going to see what's going on up here. So there have been times when my office responded by calling downstairs for help or walking out, calling me, walking out to see what's going on. That's what's missing now that we've taken the supervisor's ability to monitor the videos out of the equation. And I'm fine with it.
But we can't put that point, we can't put the cameras anywhere else other than the police department. We can't put it in any other office because that is not allowed, correct?
That's not.
No, it's not what I'm saying.
The clerk can't do it.
If the town clerk requested video cameras in her office for whatever reason, it would be considered, it is not illegal. Just so be clear, the cameras were put in the town supervisor's office because documents were disappearing out of file cabinets. And this was years ago. And we just put the cameras in and we started locking up things very securely. The problem was addressed. But you should also be aware, there was an incident when a constituent came to my office and accused me of doing three things. That was Mr. Objeski and Ms. Hartman were in my office and watched the video. What I was accused of was not on the video. So in a sense, there is an additional level of security of the cameras being in the supervisor's.
So if I would, you, I'd buy cameras for the supervisor.
And I'm not going there. If it's
If
the,
I could, since this was under my documents for some reason, since I asked about it, my question had nothing to do with how many cameras are in this building. It had to do with who was watching them. And my thing has the word discussion written on it. And it
Or
was
policy.
discussion on creating a policy. And the policy had to do with who would be watching the cameras. When I put this on here, all of a sudden cameras were taken out. All I did was put this on here to discuss. And you chose to take the cameras out of your office and you chose to disconnect your office from viewing the cameras.
that's correct.
And you arbitrarily chose it on your own.
That is
You were not
absolutely
told by
correct.
us to do that because we hadn't had a discussion of what the policy would be. So if you have reason that someone should be watching the cameras more than just the police department, fine. You and I had discussed this last year when there was concerns about the court because you felt there wasn't somebody using it for security. You thought someone was using it for surveillance. So it was discussed between us at that time and the rest of the board that the cameras were being restricted then. Okay?
And that was prior to my knowledge, based upon the email that we received today indicating to us that we have no rights as a town board to establish the policy for items that were purchased under the JCAP grants.
So who should be watching the cameras that the OCA that were put in here then?
Then that's up to the two judges to determine.
Okay, so not the supervisor's office.
If the judges make the determination that they would
Okay.
like the supervisor's office to participate, we will have a discussion. I'm not necessarily agreeing to it because I believe after this whole process, that produces a burden on our office that might be better avoided.
Okay. So you'll get back to us with a report then.
Yeah, that's bottom line, yeah.
Sounds great.
All right.
This concludes Clayton's portion of the agenda.
The next item is the presentation and acceptance of the monthly supervisor's report for the month of July, emailed on 8/15. Mrs. Sweeney, is there anything you wish to call to our attention here? Supervisor's report for July 2024. Nothing to call to our attention. May I have a motion to accept the monthly supervisor's report as presented?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The next item is an administrative task that we undertake every year. The East Kingston Fire Company serves the town of Ulster Town Board under contract. It's an implicit contract. As they provide services to the East Kingston Fire Protection District, a district that is under the control of the town board. They are required to present their budget to the public for a public hearing. And I'm requesting a motion to set a public hearing for the 2025 East Kingston Fire Company budget for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 at 7:10 PM.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is to execute motion to authorize the execution of a letter to Senator Michelle Hinchy seeking additional New York State funding for the upgrade and coordination of the highway signals at the Boyces Lane CSX Railroad Crossing, PIN number 8933.07, Town of Ulster. This is a project that's been underway since 2010. The original budget was around $1.3 million. The contract for engineering was awarded about 2.5 years ago. And due to inflation and the costs of the improvements along with the required acquisition of right-of-ways, the scope of the proposed project has had to have been reduced. And by that, I mean, we were planning on replacing the traffic signal at John Clark Drive and Boyces Lane. There is no money in the existing budget to accomplish that. And we're asking Senator Hinchy to make a provision so that there is sufficient money to complete the project as it was originally contemplated.
I'll
So,
make the motion.
I'll second that.
any discussion? All
Thank you
those in
for-
favor?
thank-
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Personnel, Mr. Secreto?
Yes. We have a hire which has been recommended by our wastewater superintendent and the personnel committee. The hiree's name is Jose Martinez. It's a wastewater maintenance worker. Comes out of the sewer department fund SS2. It's a full-time position, non-competitive. It's a union, local 17, grade 5, step 1. Wage is $17.13. The start date would be September 9th, 2024. And I recommend I make a motion to hire Jose Martinez to the water treatment plant.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You have a full complement now, right? Congratulations. The next one, sir?
This is a resignation letter sent to our chief Kyle Berardi. Ray John White, dear Chief Berardi. First off, I want to say how extremely thankful I am for the opportunity you've given me as a part-time police officer. And even with my unforeseen medical incident, your willingness to hire me as a part-time dispatcher with this great agency. But after long consideration, I am submitting my letter of resignation as a part-time police dispatcher with the Town of Ulster Police Department effective immediately. And I'd like to make a motion that we accept this letter.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next two items are similar in nature. When the town receives a grant that is sourced from federal funds, we are required to have a labor standards compliance overview of the contractor doing the work. In previous jobs where Mark Blauer has been retained, he was also the grant administrator and administrating the financial relations between the funding source and the town. In these two projects, he is not involved in procuring the financing through the application of a grant. So he does not have a grant contract with the town. Mr. Blauer was appointed by the town board in 2018 as the labor standards compliance officer. And I'm asking for a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement with Blauer Associates for consulting services involving labor standards compliance for the Ulster Water District Small Water Storage Tank Replacement Project.
I'll make.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement with Blauer Associates for consulting services involving labor standards compliance for Rupco Water Sewer Extension Project. May I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, the cost for these services are a component cost of the project budget that are being funded by funds coming from outside the town of Ulster. Now to the next item, Ms. Lucarini. The environmental testing in town hall. You know how I can wax eloquently on most issues involving the town, so how deep do you want me to go? Okay, we have had requests from the town's labor unions to monitor the air quality in the building, both upstairs and downstairs. So it was two different units because of their concerns for the health of the employees. There have been a number of cancers in our workforce, and there is a concern that it may be emanating from sources within the town hall. In 2014, we underwent a full ductwork cleaning exercise where everything was scrubbed and vacuumed after 30-some years of operation. In 2016, we had a full investigation by PESH, which is New York State's public service health, that is essentially equivalent to OSHA at the state level. They gave us a clean bill of health. The unions, particularly the Police Benevolent Association, was not accepting that report and instituted a process by which they were going to hire their own consultant. We certainly don't want to be behind the curve, and we would prefer to be proactive in knowing if there's any problems before we're informed by a third party that there's problems. Yes, the air quality within the town hall. If there is asbestos, it was at one point in the vinyl tile on the floor. It could have been in the vinyl tile, but as we look around, most of the tile has been covered up by new floor covering. And the mastic, we didn't scrape it up, so we didn't disturb it. We covered it over. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Tutt, but most of it's been encapsulated. Under deck, there is no spray foam on the steel, so that is where asbestos is usually applied as a fire retardant. The piping in the basement has all been secured. It is non-friable, which means it's not capable of being airborne. So we've addressed the issues throughout town hall. So may I have a motion to authorize the environmental testing for town hall in accordance with the proposal provided by Mr. Olmsted?
So moved. I'll make that motion.
We have a move and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the preemption interconnection agreement for the Boyces Lane CSX grade crossing in connection with NISDOT project pin 8933.07. This is a contract between the town and CSX. Every time we talk to CSX's engineers about connecting their signals to our crossing gates and our traffic signals, they need somebody to bill. And this agreement gives CSX the right to bill the town as a project cost, which is covered under the contract that we ratified last meeting with the New York State DOT. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution? Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayner,
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley,
Yes.
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek.
Yes.
Motion, resolution is adopted. Thank you. The next item comes after, I believe it's a year in process. The Planning Board considered an application from Verizon Wireless for the placement of a cell tower on the lands of DeSico at 434 Flatbush Road, Route 32 in Whittier. The original proposal was for a 100+ foot cell tower behind the self-storage facility that is on Route 32, and the FAA became involved because that project is in the flight path of the airport. The project was redesigned, the tower's height was reduced, and they have come back and come through the planning board, and we've had the requisite public hearings. I asked for a motion to accept the resolution authorizing the issuance of the special use permit for the Verizon Wireless.
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
This is a welcome to anybody that lives out in our area.
Yep.
Ulster Landing Road all the way out to Whittier in that area. Reception is terrible.
No,
Down
no,
to
that's
both
bad.
our parks, you can't use your phone.
Yep.
Internet. So.
Roll call
I'm good
vote.
with this.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayner,
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley,
Yes,
Councilman Secreto,
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek.
thank you. The next item, Ms. Lucarini. Every property owner in the town has the right to question the assessment, the assessed value of their property. And some of those property owners end up suing the town in an Article 7 tax certiorari action. As a part of being in front of a judge, we are required to obtain appraisals of the subject property. So that serves as evidence before the judge for the judge to make a determination. We have a long-standing tradition that if our appraisal, our evidence doesn't support the valuation that's on our assessment roll, we negotiate, because the outcome is far worse than not negotiating. The one time that we didn't negotiate, we ended up in appeals court, ended up paying out over $1 million in refunds to Tech City. So that's an explanation. So I would like a motion authorizing the acceptance of the resolution authorizing Kyle Burnett to sign the consent judgment in the matter of Florida Sam S. Ventures CO Home Depot, reducing the 2024 assessed roll value by $730,000.
I will make that motion.
We have a move and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayner,
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley,
Yes,
Councilman Secreto, Councilman Van Cleek.
thank you. The next item comes as the ultimate conclusion of the Ulster County update to the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, an exercise I believe that ran for the prior 2 years. Ulster County has had since 2005 and the flooding events there, put in place a hazard mitigation plan by town that gets updated every 5 years. The town of Ulster participated in that update. And the county is asking the town of Ulster for a resolution acknowledging that we are adopting the plan as it relates to our community. So I may have a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hayner.
Yes.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes,
Councilman Secreto.
Yes.
Councilman Van Cleek.
thank you. The next item in our last resolution is a resolution authorizing the town clerk to join the Ulster County tax software system. And I believe you endorse this, right?
I do. Yes.
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
So I may have a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
I make that motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman DeGroot.
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Hayner.
Yeah.
Supervisor Quigley.
Yes,
Does
Councilman Secreto.
it make your life easier?
Yes.
Isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you. Councilman Van Cleek. Thank you.
Mr. Tutt. Please come forward. As we heard the residents of Esopus Avenue talk about the Esopus Agricultural Center, we will ask Mr. Tutt to discuss the notice of violation that has been presented to the owners of the property and why we undertook this action for compliance.
So on August 29th of this year, I sent out an order to remedy. In a nutshell, I'll go over in the brief as I can, since I took most of your time before. In town code, we have travel trailers, we have travel camps, we have campgrounds. Okay, I gave them a full definition of all of those in there. Basically, travel trailer, we know what that is, an RV, tow behind camper. Trailer camp, any more than one of any of the above, including tents, campground, plot of ground, which were more tents or RVs or are placed. So my conclusion is placement of the recreational vehicles, travel trailers and or tents is not an allowed use in this zoning district, which I also informed them of the zoning district. And as such, all units currently occupying the parcel must be removed. So this notice went out August 29th. As of 10 years ago, we had to put a fixed time frame on it. So we put a fixed time frame of 30 days. So after 30 days, they have the one option to contact my office. We do not recontact them. So they can either contact my office in that 30 days or we proceed with court proceedings. In the time frame since then, supervisor graciously gave me some information as to principals on that property. So I will be reaching out to them in the next week to get ahead of this in case I don't get a response from people operating the property.
We just can't go in and take the stuff off. Right?
Chief. You want to weigh in on that one? Can I have Frank in here to take everything off the property? Yeah, not without a court order. No, not without a court order.
So we have to wait to get the court order, and then how long after the court order can we go and remove stuff?
Well, I'm not sure we can go in.
Depends on what, obviously court orders are only on, it's private property.
Can't we fine them and put stuff on their taxes for all the extra grief?
Well, that can start at the court proceedings.
So
After 30 days.
the matter is that at 30 days, if there's non-compliance, you will come back and inform the board of such. We should then at that point
Thank you.
consult with our town attorney to discuss a legal action and then by town board vote, authorize the undertaking of that legal action. We have specifically in the past had those cases like Viviani on Glenary Boulevard, where we have authorized the town attorney to file suit in Ulster County Supreme Court, which has been done to cure the problem. Once we end up in the court realm though, it becomes a long, drawn-out process because of the litigation system where everybody has
Their right.
adjournments, extensions, et cetera, et cetera.
The
So,
only thing I can say is that in my nearly 10 years of being in code enforcement, I have managed to get compliance with every order or remedy without having to go to court. So
So in the meantime, though, these people in the neighborhood have to live with a pigsty. Basically.
until I follow the proper channels, yes. Now, hopefully I get a response.
But how much of
From
your
this
time
order.
do you waste going out to these things time and time and time again?
I didn't have to go time and time this time. I had plenty of people informing me of the situation. They took one visit.
Oh,
So I can see, I didn't even have to set foot on the property.
well, let me know if my route is at all, I can help you with something. I'll go out and take a picture.
I don't want you to get accosted by that.
So Warren, they
That's.
clean everything up within the 30 days. 2 weeks later, the mess starts again. We've got to do another 30-day remedy there. There's no big fine. That always bothered me with grass, high grass and everything. We always send them another 30-day message to clean up the act. They clean it up and then it's back again.
I wish there was a different route we could take. In that,
Can we double the fine the next time that we have to go back?
Well, I think Mr. Vinnie's father, Organtini, had the one saying, he said there's no water or sewer on the property. The health department would like to hear something about that, wouldn't they?
so I did talk to John Rhodes, okay, and he has been turning on, there used to be a water supply, town water supply to a house there. So he has been turning that water supply on
With a
in the
meter.
spring, and he turns it off in the fall. Okay. The way the town code reads and the way the state code now. The second part to this is we try to use the town code whenever we can. Because if we use the town code, fines go to the town. If I start to reference the state codes, then the state gets involved in the fines. So I'm trying to keep it in the town. So if we ever do get to that point, we can at least get reimbursed for all the time we have spent. Since it has been roughly a week, okay, I haven't received anything, but I also have not received the order back. So my guess is that the order was received. We send the order certified mail and we send it regular. If one or the other does not come back, then it's written off as accepted. So, like I said, next week, I'm going to reach out to some principals that were made aware to me, see if I can get them involved because they're attached to it. So maybe they can help push this along. And before it gets any further, if they're going to try to use it, isn't an ag district, okay? But the ag district does not exempt them from our town code, similar to what we did with county built.
And how do we change the town code that we double and triple the fines in there when we have to go back twice in the same, within a year's time period or something like that? To address Rocky's issue where they do. Can we do that?
If it
Can
were
we-
in the, if
can
it
we
were strictly
change
in
it?
the fee sheet, it'd be an easy change, but since it's in the actual town code, then we have to look at changing town code for that section.
it requires a new town law, which is a legislative process defined in our,
For us to do.
yes, we have to
That's-
have our attorney draft a new law. It gets introduced and then 2 weeks later, we set the public hearing, and then 2 weeks later, we have the public hearing. We take public comment for 30 days and we move along in that process and then we vote on it. Once we vote on it and we pass it, it then gets sent to the Secretary of State, where then within 3 days, a week, it becomes law. 10 days.
Yeah, it's the same with if the town code wanted to adopt a more restrictive code than the state. You can't just arbitrarily create it and say, here, we're gonna do this. It has to be approved by whichever agency. So in my case, the Department of Building.
Can we do that? Yeah, to me, no mow and all this time that you're wasting and all this stuff.
Well, if you're gonna do that, can we look at false alarms for the fire department then?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I used to pay fines on those all the time when I was a business owner. Absolutely.
Are you volunteer?
I will. I will help you.
Just as a word of caution, we rewrote the alarm law, I believe it was in 2012,
Mhm.
because of the problems we were having with false alarms in a multifamily project within the town.
Mhm.
It was sent to Albany in a code review. It got rejected as being too restrictive. We rewrote it. When sent it back up, it got rejected again. And we did it a third time, changing everything that they objected to, and they objected a third time.
Do they
So-
want to come check? Do they want to be the one that responds?
No, I can talk to some other inspectors in other jurisdictions, see if they have one and what they use and use that as a model. The
Absolutely.
one I saw was 14 pages long. So I'm
Mhm.
sure Albany had an issue with that large of a code.
I had to sign a 3-page one in the city of Kingston. For the
Okay.
Kingston Police Department, so I had signed actually that I agreed to it.
Okay,
Yep.
anything else?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is discussion on the courtroom carpet project. We've heard the input from the people in the community. We've heard the input from our employees. Town board,
We had originally talked about the same stuff we did out in the hallway in here.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the logic was of changing it to carpeting, was it for noise?
I don't remember. But if it is the desire of the board, we can take and get a price quote. And then we can consider asking the judges to make application for a JCAP grant.
That works for me.
They make a high traffic laminate that could go in here that would last forever.
Like
So-
the one that's out there. Yeah, that's fine.
So the first part of that equation would be that may have a motion to cancel the authorization to proceed that was ratified at the last meeting.
I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The second one is the supervisor's office will take and ask our carpet floor covering contractor to give us an estimate for providing vinyl overlay to the existing floor, and we will bring it back to the board.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the last item on our agenda is a discussion on the town's EMS situation. At the August 1st meeting, we had representatives of the town's fire departments make public statements about the fact that there have been frequent times when ambulances have been called and they have not shown up in a timely fashion, and it is putting our constituents at risk. That resulted in a town board meeting with Empress, the fire representatives of the fire company and the police department about 10 days ago, where Empress presented to the community their statistics and showed that they were approaching a 10% failure rate on responses. They also at that time presented to the town outlines of, I think it was 7 different potential contracts relating to the stationing of various equipment and manning of that equipment in the town that would be solely dedicated to the town's EMS program. And by entering into a contract with Empress, it would also guarantee priority dispatch of equipment from other jurisdictions when the equipment stationed here was in service. During that presentation, discussions ensued amongst all parties about having a multi-community plan, meaning that several towns would come together and enter into a contract with Empress so that we would all share in the benefit of the stationing of the ambulances. I spoke to the supervisors in the town of Hurley and the town of Rosendale and asked them to attend a meeting which has now been scheduled for, I'm sorry, the 11th or the 12th? 9/11 at 5 p.m. in the county office building. It's for elected leaders only. It will be representatives from the town of Ulster, the town of Kingston, the town of Hurley, and the town of Rosendale, along with Ulster County Emergency Management, to discuss the matters of a multi-town arrangement. This afternoon, I had a conversation with a second ambulance provider, Ambulance, which is located in Newburgh. They are a ambulance provider that has a full state of New York certificate of need. That means they are licensed by the state of New York to respond anywhere within the state of New York. They are seeking a meeting with the town board, and we will be scheduling that after the meeting with the county and the other towns next week. In consultation with the town attorney, given the dollar value of this expenditure, which is going to be approximately $1 million, it requires a public solicitation process, the acceptance of public bids, vetting of the bids and the capabilities of the organizations responding, and then the documentation of the contract and a vote by the town board to enter into the contract. So this is not a quick fix. Did I leave anything out?
I think it's really important. And thank you very much for doing this in multi-jurisdictional, because at first we were talking about just doing the town of Ulster, but I think it was the county had made us aware that just doing it as an individual town could hurt our surrounding communities, and to show that we do, we do care and want to be as efficient as possible. This idea of getting the county involved and looking at the local communities to do a regional agreement with some service in some way so we can share, because we've had shared services sometimes are beneficial. So we have to run this to ground, and hopefully this works out. And I appreciate that we're doing it this way.
Any other comments? Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our scheduled agenda for tonight. You can see several people out here that are anxious to come to the podium. So I will open the floor to public comment on any topic that you wish to talk about. Ms. Hartman.
Good evening. I'm Laura Hartman, residing at 44 Catskill Avenue, and I'm speaking tonight as the chair of the Town of Ulster Citizens.org on behalf of our members. As you know, we learned that our supervisor had held meetings with a company looking to purchase our town water to bottle for commercial sale. As you also know, we submitted a FOIL, Freedom of Information Law, request on July 17th to request any correspondence having to do with this company and what had transpired between the town and said water bottling company. On July 18th, I received a letter from Mr. Quigley stating that I can confirm to you that a prospective tenant for an existing building at the iPark campus approached the town, and in June 2024 were provided water samples for testing purposes. I can also confirm that the owner of Building 52 visited with Mr. Tutt to discuss the leasing of the space that the bottling company inquired about and disclosed to Mr. Tutt that there was a non-water bottling company tenant in discussions to lease the space. Additionally, in conversations with the prospective tenant, they have informed me that no lease terms have been exchanged, no lease has been signed, no financing has been obtained, and no equipment orders have been placed. Based upon these facts, I have concluded that there is no reasonable prospect of a deal being concluded that would result in a water bottling plant at the iPark campus. Therefore, I believe the project is dead, and I informed Councilman Van Cleek of same on Tuesday, July 16. We certainly hope that this statement is true, and we would like to go on record for voicing our very strong objection to selling any of our water to an outside company for the purpose of bottling and selling it. With climate change wreaking havoc, the only thing we know for certain is that the future of our natural resources are uncertain. We need to protect those natural resources so the residents of our community have abundant, clean water to live. Secondly, allowing a company to put water into plastic bottles to sell is just irresponsible. We need to reduce plastics, not put more out there to end up in landfills, rivers, and oceans. It is the antithesis of what we should be doing. In the FOIL, we noticed a few things that we thought were noteworthy from the documentation. And we have these couple of questions. Why was no one else involved in the discussions with the unknown bottling company from June 5th, 2023 to May 28th, 2024? Only Mr. Quigley was in communication with the interested party. Why wasn't our superintendent of the water department not involved in any of these discussions from the outset? It only seems logical that anything having to do with our town's water supply should include our water superintendent. He was only contacted on June 5th, 2024. Why is the bottling company name a secret? It is our hope that we can achieve more transparency on issues that involve our town's resources. With the committees being set up to oversee the various departments, that is a huge step in the right direction. And I would like to add that we will be back to ask for a resolution at a later meeting, one that will protect our water, much like what was done to protect our air, with the not allowing any businesses that come into our town if they require an emissions permit. So we will be back for that. Thank you very much.
Ms. Hartman, please stay there. Are you familiar with the term public utility?
Yes.
Public utilities have obligations to serve, correct?
Yeah.
Just like if you went to Central Hudson and you had a new house and you said, I want electric, and you're in their service territory, you have they have an obligation to provide you electric.
Mhm.
The property at iPark campus is in the town of Ulster's water district. They have paid taxes to the water district since its creation in 1953. Property owners have a right upon application to request service for water. There is nothing in the town code. There is nothing in the Public Service Commission's oversight of public utilities that allows a public utility, and the state law specifically says we are a public utility, even though we are municipally owned. We cannot regulate the use of the water. Now, I stressed in my letter that they were looking at an existing building. Existing buildings do not come to the planning board. When projects come to the town, our sole recourse is to get them in front of the planning board so that we can evaluate the environmental impacts. This project did not have to go to the planning board because it was an existing building. Unlike Niagara, which was building a brand new building on a greenfield site and required planning board approval, there was the ability of the town of Ulster government to restrict or regulate the activities on the site by law. I again stress, public utilities have no ability to deny service to those people within their service territory. If this company had come in and asked for 2 million gallons a day, which clearly exceeds the licensed capacity of the town of Ulster Water District, it would have been an issue. This company was asking for 30,000 gallons a day. Basically the volumes of 3 of the car washes in this town. Now, I understand you had a nice little tour of the water district and the plant. You understand that we are licensed to sell up to 2 million gallons a day of water in the town. And we're nowhere near that. So I appreciate your concern. I would encourage you to put forth whatever legislation that you believe is appropriate and have it evaluated based upon its interaction with the town's obligations to the community and to the state under its designation as a public utility.
Understood that it's a public utility, but it still doesn't say why this was kept a secret for a year. That is exactly what I said here. Our water superintendent should have known what was happening He's the steward, he's the caretaker, and that's a really apt description of what John does for our water. One of the things we learned is how careful he is and what a great job he's doing, and his team. They're excellent. So it defies any logic why this would be kept a secret from him.
There are many commercial opportunities that come into the town supervisor's office where the applicants ask for confidentiality because of competitive reasons. I can either spread the news and shut down economic development in the town of Ulster, or I can honor their request for confidentiality and see how far we go along before we have a discussion with the appropriate people. What you're discounting here, and I stress discounting, is the fact for 16 years, I've worked to expand the capacities and reinforce the infrastructure to serve this community into the future by reinforcing our water storage capabilities, our production capabilities, our contract with the city of Kingston, and to make sure that we will never run short. I assure you, I would never sell the town of Ulster short and give away our water. And in fact, when people like Niagara came, they asked for discounts. We told them premiums. When the Ulster service area of the New York State Thruway came and asked for water, I asked John Rose, how much premium would you charge him? He said 10%. That would equate to about $4 a thousand gallons. I negotiated $13.35, okay, for the economic benefit of the Halcyon Park Water District. The districts in our community are facing severe infrastructure issues. I hope the committees that are being formed tonight will fully recognize that there's $40 million worth of capital projects that are required to keep the water and sewer flowing in this community, and a new town hall, and a new police station. But we do not have the economic resources to support them. You don't know how apoplectic I am about a potential $1 million tax increase for next year to finance an ambulance district. There are some serious problems in this chair, and it's not just me.
Understood that. And after your discussion and lesson that you gave us about the Halcyon Water Park, we do see what you've done to help protect that. But we have to, water is something none of us can live without. And I think we have to take the steps to make sure that we protect it.
So you were given a copy of the Kingston Water Agreement.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you understand that we have a 99-year agreement with the city of Kingston
Mhm.
to pay them for 700,000 gallons of water a day, whether we use it or not?
Mhm.
That means that we could pay them $1 million. We're obligated to pay them $1 million, even if we don't take a gallon of their water. And when you look at the seasonal needs of the Ulster Water District, and the reason we're having problems at the Fording Place Road plant is in the shoulder seasons when demand in the Ulster Water District falls off. They can't keep the plant running to produce water because we have this obligation with the city of Kingston, and it fully satisfies the demand within the district in the shoulder periods of time. So we need to find an incremental user of water so that we can keep the plant running. Because one thing you don't understand, John Rose very well knows and understands how the insides of all those pipes and valves corrode and gum up with rust because they don't get used. He has repeatedly come to me in the early years when we weren't running as much as we used to do prior to the contract with the city of Kingston, and said, we got to do something to make sure the plant runs at least 2 to 3 hours a day so it remains ready and operationally fit. And then when we get stressed, like we do when the city of Kingston shuts us off, and he has to work 16 hours a day, the capacity, the production capacity of the plant has degraded from its rated capacity of 1,440 gallons a minute down to a practical about 1,100 gallons a minute because of the age and the operating efficiencies of the plant not being kept at its highest standards, because we can't afford to keep it at its higher standards. Because we have this burden of $1 million going to the city of Kingston.
That was a deal done a long time ago and not a good one.
No, and I agree with you. When I've attempted to renegotiate it, I have attempted to negotiate terms and conditions, changes in the terms and conditions, and we were successful in changing one of the terms that related to the 700,000 gallons a day was calculated on a quarterly basis, which adversely impacted us, to changing it to a 700,000 gallons per day on an annual basis, giving Mr. Rose the opportunity to only take 500,000 gallons a day in January and February when water use is low, and taking 900,000 gallons in June and July and August when water is high. When they were billing us, they were billing us the 700,000 times 90. And if we didn't use it, we had to pay them on a quarterly basis. We changed that. So we're trying to work within the confines.
Well, hopefully the new buildings that are going to be built at iPark will be using more water and more residents, and that will using our water for that is a much smarter
And I have to
way
agree
go.
with you, but it will be nowhere near what we need to keep the system running efficiently because of the new building standards, which promote minimum water usage, which I know your group was very interested in. And they asked them because under building standards today, everything is mandated to be low flow toilets and low flow shower heads and water conserving appliances. So when the DEC says that you plan a project to use 100 gallons of water per day per bedroom, we know from what we've seen around town in the newer developments, doesn't come close.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional comments, sir?
Wayne Spanier, Lakeview Avenue. I hadn't prepared anything for tonight, but I did go on that nice little tour, as you described it, in that patronizing way. And I think one of the problems that I've observed in getting things done in this town is that, Supervisor Quigley, I think you have a very go it alone style. And I think I get the feeling that you resent other people wanting to be part of the process. And it's really unhelpful. It's confrontational, and it discourages people from wanting to be involved. Otherwise, they feel they have to kind of go through you. And it's kind of a, I alone can fix it kind of an attitude. So that's my observation. I did go on the tour. It was very educational. It was enlightening. And I think I wish a lot of people in the town could have been part of it and heard and seen what we did. So, you've got a lot of expertise, no question, but I think the town would run better if there was more collaboration. And I don't think that your attitude encourages that. And I've been watching it for a number of years now.
Thank you for your comments. Any additional comments? May I have a motion to go to executive session to discuss labor contracts between the town and the chief of police, the building inspector, the water superintendent, and the sewer superintendent?
Second.
I'm waiting. Huh? What?
Would you?